We're good. Got, interpretation rooms, you can start recording. Thank you.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Education Business Meeting. Today is Tuesday, May 21st. Time is now 7:02 p.m. Anyone that would like to make a public comment, please make sure to sign the form up on the table there. We will be collecting them shortly after the meeting starts. Please stand for Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. With me this evening, I have Board Member Howard White, Board Member Ashley Williams, Janine Randolph, Kara Nelson Bakey, Sherry McCready Pritchett, Mary Ellen Flaherty Ludwig. I don't see any other board member online. Also, Dr. Alexandra Estrella and her cabinet is here for the evening. With that, I will transfer the meeting to Kara Bakey for our spotlights for the evening.
Thank you, Chairwoman Carpio. So tonight we have 3 spotlights. The first one is National Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. The Norwalk Board of Education is proud to recognize May as National Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. National AAPI Month is a time to celebrate and recognize the unique experiences, traditions, and cultures of the fastest growing racial groups in the United States. Asian and Pacific Islander encompasses all people from the Asian continent as well as the Pacific Islands of Melanesia, which includes New Guinea, New Caledonia, Vanuatu, Fiji, and the Solomon Islands, Micronesia, which includes Marianas, Guam, Wake Island, Palawa, Marshall Islands, Kiribati, and Nauru, and the federal states of Micronesia and Polynesia. The Midway Islands, Samoa, American Samoa, Tonga, Tuvalu, Cook Islands, Hawaiian Islands, French Polynesia, and Easter Island. The celebration of Asian Pacific Americans' heritage began as a week-long celebration in the late 1970s. Since 1992, Congress has authorized an annual presidential proclamation that designates May as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. In 2021, President Joe Biden expanded the name to include Native Hawaiians in a broader effort to create a more inclusive celebration, directly recognizing the distinct history and contribution of Native Hawaiians as part of the United States. The month of May was chosen to commemorate the immigration of the first Japanese to immigrate to the United States on May 7, 1843. It also marks the anniversary of the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad on May 10, 1869. The majority of the workers who laid the tracks were Chinese immigrants. According to the Social Tracking of Asian Americans in the U.S. Index Report 2022, Asian Americans are the least likely to feel like they belong in the U.S. With that in mind, the Norwalk Board of Education feels it's more important than ever to let our Asian, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander students know that they are safe, they are seen, and they are appreciated. By declaring this National Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, the Board of Education encourages everyone to learn about these diverse communities that have enriched this country for generations. From STEM and human rights to art and cuisine, they are critical to our future success.
If people want to come in, I see we have a full house. I know there's some seats in here if you want to stand within the room. We can move the chairs forward. We can move some of these chairs over there.
Have some seats here.
All right. So our second spotlight of the evening is the MPS Poetry Contest 2024. The Norwalk Board of Education wishes to congratulate the 33 students who are winners in the 2024 Poetry Contest. Your beautiful words were truly captivating and inspiring. To celebrate National Poetry Month in April, the MPS Curriculum Department hosted its annual poetry contest. This year's theme was memories inspired by the book Memory Jars by Vera Glasgow. Congrats to all.
Calling upon Stacey Bergen from the Curriculum Department to share a few words.
Hi, good evening. It's so inspiring when we receive over 200 entries into our poetry contest across the district, starting in kindergarten all the way up and through our Future Ready program for our high school students. So I'm proud to present the following certificates to, if you are from a student from Brookside, Maori Balderramos, Valerie Nigueros Diaz,
As you receive your certificate, can you come around to the front?
They should go that way.
like through. Sophia Lopez. Representing Cranberry, we have Kiernan Berg and Annabelle Berg. Representing Fox Run, Paola Gonzalez Chacon. Sebastian de Sandres. Roman Serrato. And Parker Ainsworth. Representing Jefferson Marine Academy Elementary, Juliet Gomez. Chimera Cervantes Ordonez. Naomi Serrato. Dana Gamboa. Malak Masay. Danielle Mendoza. Madison Hi, Dave. Congratulations. Gotta watch my back. Madison Gonzalez. And rounding out Jefferson, we have Aaron Castillo Rao. Sophia Lopez from Brookside. We're gonna pause here for 1 second, have the picture taken.
We're gonna split it into 2 sections because we have about
33 kids.
All right, you guys, can we adjust a little bit
Well, give
together?
us a minute, let's.
Oh, yeah, get together. How about the kids step forward? There you go.
Okay, the younger students, can you come to the front here so that we can. Can we have the tall in the back, some of you over here?
Over here.
Taller towards the back?
And then can we have the board come and actually
Can
fill
you
in the
come,
back?
can you come over here? Can you come here? Watch your step. Can you guys move closer to one another?
Here we go.
Alright, perfect. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, just keep smiling, guys, keep on smiling. Don't stop smiling,
Okay,
sure, all your
go, some of
parents are
the
trying
parents,
to.
you wanna get to the front and take pictures?
Yeah.
Okay, another big brother. Now, you can exit that way, just be careful with it. Just be careful.
Okay, next group. Representing Wolf Pit Elementary, Riley Sander. Ayana McLean. Berkeley. Emily Turner. And Ella Nealon. Okay, representing Rhoton, Kennedy James. Aisha Nanjia. And Riley Peterson. Rounding out our middle schools, we have one winner from Ponis, Ruben Burgos. All right, now our big kids. From our Future Ready program, Brian Avila Mendieta. Olhemeli Rodriguez Baez. Anthony Lavia Zalviat. Nayari McGee. Ronan Laporte. And Aylin Gonzalez. Let's give a round of applause for our The future of literacy looks bright at Newark Public Schools. Look at these young scholars who wrote about their memories and shared their stories with our small committee who had a really hard time in determining who, stuck out. And these are them. Congratulations.
Can the taller students get on the back, please? So then guys can come closer. Just come around just. And then come closer to. Oh, no, okay. Okay. You know they're my new face. Thank you. Thank you so much. You can sit back. No, that's fine. Can we close the door so we can? Yeah, awesome.
Great. Thank you, everybody. And this is the last spotlight of the evening. The Norwalk Board of Education extends its heartfelt gratitude to the families of Jolie Lubin and Samantha Burchard, former Norwalk High School graduates who tragically died in a fatal car accident in February 2024, gave a generous donation to the Norwalk Next Steps 1822 transition program. The family set up a GoFundMe to create a lasting tribute in the girls' memories and chose to donate a portion of the proceeds to the Next Steps program. Burchard was planning to pursue a career in the special education field, and both she and Lubin had ties to students in the Next Steps program. Burchard and Lubin were known to the girls in the Next Steps as giving the best hugs. The Next Steps program is also working with the NPS Family Center and the Human Services Council to place a memorial bench outside their building at 1 Park Street in honor of Lubin and Burchard. The Norwalk Next Steps program works with students ages 18 to 22 to effectively become valued members of the community. It offers a range of services for students in need of functional academics, vocational experiences, and independent living skills development. The program focuses on daily living skills, vocational skills, and self-determination skills, lessons, and activities, and works to broaden students' abilities. The program also helps students develop the competence to lead successful and rewarding adult lives. The Norwalk Board of Education, again, thanks the Lubin and Burchard families for their generous donation. Your selflessness ensures that your daughter's memories live on in the Next Steps program. Thank you for your invaluable contribution. And now we'd like to take a moment of silence.
just want to acknowledge the family is here. Thank you so much for joining us today and for supporting our programs. It was a pleasure to meet all of you and celebrate the young women that we lost. I hope that the memories that we're creating throughout the district help alleviate the pain that I think, I can only imagine what it might feel like. I'm so sorry for your loss, but we want to celebrate the greatness that they were for us in our district. Everybody that speaks about them speak about how joyful and amazing the two young women were, and we're looking forward to continuing to celebrate their life and the great things that they did in our community. And this is just one little piece of how we want to remember them, and we will continue to remember them as a community. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. So now, we'll transfer the meeting over for public comments, sharing and Penny Pritchett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we now will do public comments. I've got one person who signed up, Ms. Mary Doyle. Please state your address, please. Thank you.
Mary Jordan, 9 Mott Avenue, Suite 302. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. What a wonderful evening to start with such a heartfelt donation, and our deepest sympathies to the families who have experienced such loss and are using it in such a meaningful way. We offer our congratulations to the young poets and how wonderful that was to see them all here. We want to offer our congratulations to Sweeters, who has inspired confidence in her leadership in each of her assignments throughout the district. And we are looking forward to working with her. The budget, of course, is the most important thing that this body does, and we are looking forward to hearing some of the details. We know the work that is involved, we suspect the work that is involved, and we appreciate that. I have a few unrelated things to say tonight, 2 more. I wish to, on behalf of the NFT, thank all of you who came out to the first book celebration on Saturday. Some of you rolled up your sleeves and really worked hard. We really appreciate all of the efforts from central office, from leaders, from many volunteers to pull off such a wonderful event where we gave away 500 boxes of food for needy families in Norwalk, as well as 50,000 books. You know, this big collaborative celebration. And finally, the NFT wishes to express its thanks to you, our district leaders, to those in City Hall, and the team in Hartford for the successful HVAC grants. It's a game changer, really provides the appropriate, healthy, and comfortable environments that are fundamental to learning. So to the entire collaborative team, we're looking forward to that too. Thank you.
And that was the only public comment. Do we have someone?
So, if anybody online would like to make any public comments, please raise your hand.
So given that we have none, that's the end of public comments. I'll turn it over to the Madam Chair.
Thank you. So we're moving into the superintendent's report for the evening. I will introduce Dr. Alexandra Estrella to do the report.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Madam Chair. There's a few items that we want to discuss as articulated earlier. One of the biggest items to discuss this evening is the budget and providing the board some overviews of where we stand right now, trying to balance the budget. But before we go into that, I want to take a moment to introduce our
recommended school leader for Kendall Elementary School, Jennifer Sweeters. Jennifer Sweeters has dedicated many years of her life to the children of Norwalk Public Schools and has been extremely flexible when needed to lead different situations throughout the district. So we have been really proud of the work she has done, and she's actually been a team player. Whenever we needed support, she has always been the first to say, I'll do it, even if it's a difficult, complex situation, she's always willing and able. Her expertise in instruction are already making an impact in Kendall Elementary and will continue to do so given your approval. I'm really excited to recommend her to you as the future principal for Kendall Elementary. And I request, Madam Chair, if you can set a motion to potentially move the vote to approve forward so that the team that's here doesn't have to stay for an extended amount of time, because I know many of them have had a very long day. Jennifer Sweeters, would you please kindly share a few words with us?
Hi, I'm Jennifer Sweeters. I want to thank you so much for this amazing opportunity. It's truly an honor to be appointed as the principal of Kendall College and Career Academy. As most of you know, Norwalk Public Schools is just a huge part of who I am. I'm an MPS alumni. My steadfast commitment to the Norwalk district actually started with my mom and my grandmother and my aunt, who actually worked for the district as well. My own career has been built right here. I actually started as a para in this district, and I am here before you, hopefully as the next principal of Kendall College and Career Academy. It wasn't until I became a teacher at Brookside that my interest in educational leadership actually was ignited. I was really blessed to have amazing administrators who saw a spark in me and provided some guidance and opportunities for myself to grow as a leader. A lot of them are right here in the room, so I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Over the past few months, I've been blessed to serve as the interim principal at Kendall College and Career Academy. I've had the pleasure of getting to know the staff, the students, the parents of the KCCA community. I've met with them individually. I've spent time in classrooms, attended teacher teams to gain a comprehensive overview of the school. And I'm excited to make my position official and continue building upon the great foundation that they already have in place as we continue to prepare our future scholars. Over the next few years, alongside my amazing AP, we are going to strengthen our Tier 1 instruction by providing more opportunities for interdisciplinary project-based learning. We are going to advance our scholars' access to opportunities to inquire, explore, and investigate various workforce development skills, computer science skills, and college and career connections. So I just want to say thank you guys for the opportunity, and I look forward to planting my roots firmly at KCCA.
All right, just the standing ovation speaks to who we are bringing forward to you. I also want to highlight that we have Jackie Aarons and James Crouch. Jackie was a leader who worked alongside Jennifer and was really upset with me when I had the decision to Nathan Hale. And when I pulled her from Nathan Hale, James was really upset when I placed her at Kendall. But they're here tonight, and it's testament to the bonds and relationship that Jennifer builds in the schools that she serves. And there's several people here already from the current school as well as other places that she has served. I see the Dean of Nathan Hale here as well, and a few others. So it just speaks to the work that Jennifer has immersed herself in our district and the impact that she has on people, the people that she works with. I'll turn it over to you for this piece.
All right, so You'll probably have to clap and stand up again after. I need a motion to move item A on part 4, appointment of principal of Kendall Elementary School up on the agenda. Howard, seconded by Mary Ellen. Thank you. All right, so all in favor, well, first, a motion to appoint Jennifer Sweeters as principal of Kendall Elementary School. Ashley, all in favor, raise your hands and say aye. Aye. Okay. I have to say that in my 4.5 years on the Board of Ed, this is the most energy appointment I have seen, and the clapping and screaming before the vote. But that says so much of you, you know, of the fan club that's across the district and not just in one area, so congratulations and welcome aboard. Anybody, any other comments?
I just say I'm glad to support this appointment. You clearly have made a difference in the district. The fact that you've got the curriculum expertise is very important, but also the fact that you are proactive, you're driven, you're flexible, and you're able to step into any role is very important because, as we know, things change on a dime. So, welcome.
Thank you.
And she is very flexible.
She's a tree now.
I also say it's amazing to see someone that's rooted here and been through the roots and grow up and to come back and to give back. That's an amazing opportunity, and bless you and thank you for that, contributing.
I just want to add that our AP at Kendall is also a product of Nora Public Schools. So we have 2 former Nora Public School students leading Kendall Elementary School.
That's
I'm not like waiting for you to. I'm so excited about it. Enjoy. We will talk about the budget. Jennifer, don't go, they're waiting.
There's one more.
That I know that magic in the classroom happens when there's enthusiasm all around. And it seems you are going to sparkle that magic. Thank you.
Send me the pictures.
Can sneak out, thank you.
I'll see what I can do. Thank you for adjusting that, Madam Chair. The second item in our, on the superintendent report is a review of the 2024-25 budget, tentative budget. Mr. Asmani will be providing an update of where we are. We have worked, well, the whole team has diligently worked towards trying to balance this budget. As you know, this has been no easy task. Given some of the work that we have to do as a collective district and the percentage we receive so far. We are in conversation with the city about finding opportunities to identify additional funds that will help us balance the budget. We've had a number of factors that have influenced or impacted the budget, one being the growing number of MLL students that were not accounted for initially when we were going through the budget process because these students, the influx happened while the budget process was occurring, and we're looking at the impact of that. We also have special education costs that continue to rise, and as a result, having a significant impact in our budget. But we're working really hard to figure things out, making reductions where necessary, to help balance the budget. But despite that, it's been critical for us to immerse the city in conversations in order for us to find additional dollars so that we can effectively move programs forward in a way that will not negatively impact the people that are in front of children, and ensure that we can maintain the programs that have yielded the positive outcomes that we have thus far, and that will help us continue to propel the outcomes that we continue to expect moving forward. So, Mr. Osmani, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Well, good evening. I was hoping some of the young poets would have stuck around to be inspired to be young finance people.
Good try.
No, very, very bad try. So anyway, wanted to spend some time with you and give you an update on where we are with the budget process. As the superintendent has indicated, it's an ongoing process. We are almost there. We will be bringing to you the final budget for approval at your June 4th meeting, I believe, but we wanted to share an update on where we were and give you some of the updates on the factors that are driving the budget, as the superintendent had indicated. That's what the on button does. So anyway, just a brief, you've seen this before. These are kind of the major categories that make up the budget. Our 24-25 budget that was approved by the board was just a little over $245 million, which did reflect an 8.2% increase over the current year's budget. At the time when we approved this budget, I had shared this chart, which basically shows what the drivers were in the budget, the series of numbers that made up the 8.2%. As you can see, the top half, which we refer to as the base, was about 5%, which was just to allow us to keep doing what we're doing now with no new initiatives in the budget. What we had hoped to achieve with the 8.2% by way of new initiatives included some teacher release time that the superintendent had talked about. That would have cost, when we did the initial estimate, about $2 million, so that was included in part of the original request. Historically, for the past, well, we didn't do it last year, but prior to this year, we have had $2 million within the budget that we provide as supplemental funding, we call it the magnet supplement, for schools that provide magnet programs or programs over and above the base. And therefore, we had a process, we have an internal process. We set aside $2 million where these schools can apply for this funding to offset those additional costs up above and beyond the base. And so our hope with this year's budget was we would reinstitute that. So that had a tune of $2 million. As we had mentioned, in the current year, and we'll be seeing some transfers today, we know that our special education costs continue to increase. This year's budget, approximately, we're anticipating a little over $11 million in special education costs. When we approved the current year's budget, we approved a budget with only 9.7, I believe, $9.5 million in the budget, with the understanding that we'll kind of see how the year goes, transfer from areas where we're underspending and hopefully not have to return to the city for special appropriation. And that's not really the way to budget. And so one of the goals we had set up when we presented this budget to you was to fully fund what we project the special education cost to be, which is about 11.5 million. So that was the increase that you saw there. I had shared with you that due to when we received funds, ESSER, that supplemented our school lunch program, we were able to run that fund without deficits for a period of almost 2 to 3 years. We were fortunate that we were also allowed to roll over those funds, so when that school lunch program was receiving federal dollars, we were able to carry balances year after year and avoid having to supplement the school lunch fund from the general fund, which is something we've historically done, because that fund, we don't charge the full cost of providing those services. And so in this year's budget, anticipating that we've depleted those reserves, we would need to go back to funding the school lunch program, so we had included that in the program. So those were the items that we had included that made up the 8.2%. As you know, we went through the budget process. At the end of the process, the city approved 3%. So now what we have to do is to reconcile and to make sure that we made the adjustments so that we follow the city charter and the state charter in that our budget ties to the 3% approved by the city. So there is a gap that needs to be made. I think one thing that's also important to understand, because we obviously hear comments about if you're going to make reductions, our goal will always be to safeguard the frontline instruction of those that provide frontline services. That is rather challenging when our staffing looks like this chart here. As you can see, in the local fund, with just over 1,700 students, 93% of our staff are in the schools. And therefore, when you're talking about making adjustments to staffing, it's difficult to make significant adjustments in all the other areas and leave the schools whole, just because of how we're set up. We provide instruction to students. On the grant side, because grants, as Ms. Fayos has said, in a number of instances, grants are program specific. They fund specific programs and we don't get to decide what those are. And most of our grants currently, 99% of individuals that are funded by grants are directly supporting schools. That's what those grants are intended to do. They provide student services. So I just want to show you this chart just so that there is a clear understanding of where those positions live and the challenge that comes before us when we have to make these adjustments with the restrictions of not impacting 98% of our staff. I think the other factor that's important when we talk about 85% of our expenses are payroll related, we do have a big chunk of it that's health insurance. And one of the things that I shared with you when we were budgeting for health insurance at the beginning of the year, the state, for those of us that are on the state plan, the state gives us initial projections in November, which is usually the number we have when we're building this budget. And we get a series of updates up until April when we get the final number of what that increase was going to be. So in building this budget, we initially had a 5% for the state plan. The final number for the state plan by way of increase is 2%. But you recall that this year we shifted a significant number of employees from the state plan to the Cigna plan, the high deductible plan. When we put the budget together, when we went to Cigna to get an estimate, they did not know because we had only transitioned our NFT members in September. There wasn't enough claims history for them to give us a projection. So what we did at the time, because when we entered the contract, they gave us a not to exceed number of 15%. So that's the number we had at the time. So we plugged in the 15% number, hoping that as we saw on the state side, as the claims history began to build and we get that final number, it would be a number less than the 15% that we put in, which in typical years would give us an opportunity to lower that number as that number comes down. Unfortunately, we did get the final number from the Cigna plan, and the increase is actually 15%. And therefore, it took away some of the tools in the toolbox that would allow us to reconcile the budget that we've had in prior years. And with a majority of our employees being teachers, the savings on the state side with that lower premium are not as significant as historically when we had a bigger pool, because we have a smaller pool in that fund now. So that did take away some of the flexibility that we typically would have, and therefore when we talk about adjusting the budget, it limits what we can do because these are contractually mandated, we have to pay these premiums, but I think that's important to share because that ties into this other slide. So we were in this situation, we are in this situation every year. So this is an example of last year. This is kind of how we got to that end point. In 23-24, you recall we had requested 12.7% from the city. The final budget that was approved was 4%, so we had to go through this process of reconciliation. And so one of the things that allowed us last year, we were fortunate in that we received, when we revised our grant numbers, we had a little over $1.6 million in additional grant revenue that we hadn't accounted for. So we were able to move some expenses to those grant funds. We were also able to use some carryover from prior years that we hadn't used last year, so we had that allowed us to reconcile. And you recall that towards the end of the budget process, the city, through the mayor's leadership, also provided a one-time ARPA $2.5 million allowed us to reconcile. So after those were taken out, we ended having to reconcile a little over $11.8 million, which we did by reductions in some areas. You recall last year we did we did 100 position reductions from our staffing table. Fortunately, we were able to not impact employees because most of those positions were vacant at the time. But the challenge is, even when you eliminate vacant positions, it reduces the opportunity for somebody to hire. So if you had a vacant position at a school, once you eliminate it, that school is not able to hire a new person. So although you're not terminating an employee, but you are limiting the resources available at the schools. So that's how we were able to reconcile that budget last year. So here's where we are this year and in the process. So again, same mechanism. Our tentative request was 8.2%. We need to get that to 3%. So some of the things that we've already done to bring down that number, at this point in time, the plan to do the teacher release at $2 million. For now, we have taken that out, so that's $2 million. We just concluded our school-based budget process. We did that without the $2 million for the magnet programs. And so this year, we again asked our school leaders to continue to provide their services within their existing base budget. At this time, we're still evaluating the school lunch program. We are actually just concluding an RFP process. We're required every 5 years, I believe, to go out and bid, and so we just did that. We just received those bids actually yesterday in reviewing those bids, and so we're looking at those bids with a hope that we may be able to negotiate reduced expenses. So for the time being, that 1.2 million transfer to the school lunch fund, we've taken that out. I don't believe that number will be zero. We'll probably have to revisit that before we come back to you in June. But for the time being, we've taken that out. We are trying to identify an additional about $500,000 in grants that we can plug some of the holes that we have. And we're projecting this year because, as I mentioned earlier, we have underfunded SPED, and we're doing these transfers. But at this point, it's looking like we may have to dip about $1.3 million in the carryover from the prior years. But I think it's a little less than we had budgeted for carryover. We thought we would need about $3 million in carryover. So I think that allows us to possibly add another $500,000 in carryover funds for this year, because this year's budget already included the assumption that we would carry over $2 million. And so now we're saying instead of $2 million, maybe we have about $2.5 million to carry over. So that's where we are. Even with that, we're still left at this point in the process about $5.5 million short to balance the budget. And so as the superintendent had indicated, we are working with the mayor's office to see if there are possibilities to plug that number. But if there aren't, then obviously the staff and the finance team will have to continue having conversations with our schools and seeing how we can get to 3%. It's a challenge, like I said, you can see the reductions that we've already made, almost $7 million just so far. But we will continue, it's actually about 6 million. But we'll continue the process. We did want to give you a brief update on where we are. We do have meetings scheduled this week with the city and the mayor's office, and we're hoping for some positive outcomes from those. As you may have seen in the media, there was some additional funding from the state that was given to communities from ARPA dollars at the state level. I believe the city, the two I've seen so far, City of Danbury received $12 million from the state. Of that 12, the city is providing the district with 7. We have received 5, and we're in conversations with the mayor's office to see how the mayor plans to divvy that up or what those uses are. So we would hope that some of that would go to the Board of Ed, and it is the city's decision, but those are some of the conversations that we're having. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
When you said last year you were able to save as far as the teachers are concerned because of those positions that weren't filled, what does that mean as far as this year's concerned?
So we don't know, and so right now we're at 5.5 million. If we don't get any additional resources, then we will have to kind of evaluate and prioritize where those reductions would come. We would start looking at non-teaching positions, non-certified positions that we have. But again, looking at that chart that I showed you for the people, I don't believe that you can make that up entirely in non-certified positions and continue to run a district. There's just no way, given that 90% of our staff are working directly with students, whether certified or not certified. But those are some of the difficult conversations that we're going to be having, and we'll be back to you once a proposal of how we plan to get to that point.
One of the things that we articulated during the budget process was the challenge that although we went through that process last year and eliminated those roles, it didn't mean that we didn't need those roles in schools. And the added strain that it creates for our educators throughout the organization by not having these roles. So we are already strained as a system. So my biggest concern is having to engage in further elimination of people that we desperately need, because we already lost, I believe it was 100 plus.
Yeah, I think last year we did 102 positions.
Correct. And having to lose more would be detrimental to the organization, which is one of the things we try to have the BET understand when we're going through the process. It's the amount of work that it takes to support students and to do the work well is significant, and our teachers are already overburdened. If we lose any more, it's going to create an unbearable stress in the system. The other factor is making sure that the teachers have the opportunity to do effective support structures within the organization, particularly for MLL, students with specialized services. Our numbers continue to increase, and we're very limited because of some of these factors in terms of how to effectively provide services. So we hear a lot from the community in terms of the accountability metrics and what they're hoping to see. But if we don't have the proper investment in our schools to support the personnel that we need to do that work, it's very difficult to yield those outcomes, which is something that I want the board to be cognizant about, because we are working really hard as a cabinet, central office, to support schools with some of these challenges and figuring out how to map things out. But there's only so much you can do when you don't have enough people to do the work. And if we have to engage in further reductions, it's going to be very, very difficult for us to do our work well.
And for those of you that were there at the last work session, we took the opportunity to kind of share with you just how we work with the schools. And if you recall some of the snippets of the video we saw, we really look at those line item details. I think there was one where we were working with a principal to get a line item from $1,500 to $850. That's the level of detail that we go through in combing through these line items with the schools. And we did that through the SPP process. And so any additional reductions, we typically would go back and re-engage schools and departments in a similar process, but with targets. Here's how much we need to balance the budget.
Linda?
Yes.
Overall, I find this heartbreaking. I know how desperate it seems to possibly put more work on the workers that are there now, mostly the teachers. I am very concerned about the school lunch fund evaporating, and just wonder if you could outline what might happen. Would that mean everybody would pay lunch and we'd go back to celebrating free lunch?
No, so what would happen is we would have to transfer funds from the general fund into that school lunch fund. So we would have to make further reductions into the fund because that fund cannot end a year less than at a negative. And that's been the case in the past. In the past, towards the end of like this time, the CFO would come to you and say, we're projecting a school lunch fund, we need another 400,000 or whatever that dollar amount is. And so we would transfer that money from the general fund into that fund because when those funds are audited, they can't have negative balances. So that's what we would end up doing.
That's what you do.
Can you tell me, from the proposals that came in, how many came across?
So when we did the proposals, it's actually mandated by the state. Initially, we had 3 firms that came in, and part of the RFP process, we brought them in, took them on a tour, they went to the facilities, they see the kitchens, they see the food prep areas. So 3 of those participated. When it was time, we received in writing from 1 that they were not going to bid, just because the margins are getting really low in that area as well, and the reimbursement rates that the feds provide don't leave a lot of margin if you're not a big player in the market. So 1 formally told us that they weren't going to bid, and so we're anticipating 2. When we closed the bid, we just received 1. And so there wasn't a lot of competition, and so we're down to 1. Fortunately, I shouldn't probably say fortunately, but it's the current vendor who bid again, because I think there's some economies of scale when you're already in the system. But there was an opportunity for us to say we go with this one because they're lower. We have to go with the bid, and we have to have a service in place come September.
Thank you.
Just a question about at the very end of the legislative session, the $150 million was reinstated in education. Did any of that back and forth have an impact in Norwalk that was to the positive?
So those were primarily because the governor's proposal already included those numbers. I think it was going in the back and forth. The legislature taking them out and then they were reinstated. So we ended up where we began with the governor's proposal, and the numbers that we had in the budget were the governor's numbers. And so we weren't cut, but we did not necessarily receive a windfall. Now there are some additional funds. For example, we're an Alliance district and there's some funding for Alliance. We typically don't get those final numbers until later in the year. But again, those are for specific programs that have been identified. And so I don't think there's anything from the state that would help us between now and June to balance the budget this year. Am I correct?
Okay. Nothing for the magnets.
You can't fund the magnets this year.
No, not our internal magnet funding, no. I mean, because to do that, we would have to take money from somewhere else. And this is the second year we've been in this situation where we haven't been able to do that. But we've heard from the principals that they really need that, it's helpful, but we just haven't been able to do it 2 years in a row.
Thank you to you and the team and all the principals for doing your absolute best with not very much. Like, we see the work that you're doing and we appreciate it. I agree with Mary Ellen, it is just like, what can you say? Thank you for the work that you're doing.
And this is where the perfect example as to when we first started the budget season, especially the new members, the importance of having those one-on-one conversations with common council members, with the BET member. But it's unfortunate that we are looked upon as a corporation where people just think that you can just cut, move, and do whatever, when in reality, we are, bound by state regulations and laws, and, by law, we have to have certain resources for children. And it's not easy to decide what to cut, what to move, and that is not even our decision. Our fight is to be able to get the understanding across as to why this money is important to the district. And now, we are looking at these numbers. We know how hard we tried as individuals because there's 9 of us and there's 15 council members, and then there's BET members, and then there's other political people in Norwalk that we have to have these hardcore conversations with to try to get the point across. And it's for me, I feel very deflated at the moment because the thought of losing more people and putting more stress on staff, especially teachers, when we have been fighting for them and understanding that they are the rocks of the students. And through COVID, they were the warriors. And now to be looking at these numbers is very difficult. But then you also have the state mandates that came through this year that are not funded. So those are things that we have to put into place and try to figure out how to pay for those, right? Because they're not funded, they're mandatory, we have to pay, so again, it goes to the fact of cutting. And then the teacher release time, that is something that we sat here and we listened to the union speak, we listened to the staff, we listened to what they needed, we were ready to make those decisions and put those in place. And now here we are again saying, we can't.
Not only can't, but also there might be more strain because of other positions that can't get filled.
Right. And I think that's where the miscommunication comes sometimes. It's not that we don't care, it's not that we don't understand, and it's not that we don't listen. It's the fact that our hands are tied and we have to make very tough decisions.
Any additional questions from the board? Or comments? So this concludes my report. I will provide an update once we have our conversation with the city. We're looking to meet within the next few days, and hopefully it will yield some positive news in terms of additional resources that we can obtain to help balance our budget. I thank the mayor for his support last year because we got an additional $2.5 million that helped us balance the budget last year, and I'm hoping that our continued dialogue will help us acquire additional funds so that we can potentially close the gap that we currently have to balance this budget.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Now we're at the action consent section of the agenda. This is where we vote multiple items all at once. We have approval of personnel, approval of budget transfers, and approval of minutes. Any questions and concerns before we move forward on these? Okay. All in favor, please raise your hand, say aye. Aye. That's unanimous, thank you. Next action item is approval of revised 2024-25 school year calendar, adding an early dismissal on December 20th, 2024.
Budget process.
Does this calendar revision have anything to do, is it reflective of the day that we lost because of the fire? The bridge? No, right?
So, this date is because previously, we didn't have a half day, the last day of school prior to the winter break. We were the only district in the region that didn't have the half day, and it created some complication for personnel in terms of pickup and other factors, and a lot of the families assumed that it was a half day. So in staying in alignment with other districts in our area, we adjusted our 24-25 calendar to have that half day. Although the holiday that some people celebrate doesn't fall the next day, we wanted to stay in alignment with the rest of the area.
Makes sense.
In terms of your question about the day that we had the bridge fire, we engaged in conversation with the state. Their recommendation was to maintain the year as is, because on average, over the scope of our the past 13 years, we've had more than 180 days, which is the requirement. If we have snow days in the upcoming school year, we will have to make up those days because we have to hit 181 days between now and the time this current kindergarten class graduates, to add that day to average out to 180. It made more sense to do that than to have people make modifications with trips and other plans now. So we were able to maintain our end date as is, and next year, if we have a snow day, we will just have to shift the calendar, because our calendar already starts with 182 days.
So all in favor of approval of revised 2024-25 school year calendar?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous, thank you. And now, next item is approval of the 2025-26 school year calendar. Any other questions regarding that calendar? I know that Dr. Straya just explained a little bit of a difference for that year.
Well, those were 24-25. So 25-26 is the next one.
Next one. Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand, say aye. Aye. So that's unanimous. Thank you. Next item is monthly financial report. Linda, you are upping it here.
I'll keep this one very short.
You were famous tonight.
Just one slide. So just to give you an update on where we are, the financials as of April, you have this report. You also have the line item information in your packets. We're typically where we will be at the end by this time of the year. As I indicated in my earlier presentation, you'll see that our FY24 adjusted budget is just a little over 226 million. Right now, we're projecting that we will probably dip into our carryover, which we knew that we would when we approved the budget, just as will be the case in the budget that you're about to approve. But we don't anticipate any other major adjustments outside of the funds that have been appropriated to us. So it's consistent with where we would be this year. As I've shared before, the main driver that's really driving this year is specialized learning. The cost we're anticipating about a little over 11 million. We had 9.5 in the budget, and therefore how we're making up for the difference are the transfers like the ones you just approved. And then we're trying to see where we would end at the end of the year and possibly use some of those carryover funds from prior years to make us whole.
Has that historically been the case where specialized learning has been the biggest stressor on the budget, or are we just noticing that over the last 4 or 5 years? Has that always been the practice?
It's always been a significant driver of the budget. As Mr. Pennington has pointed out, we are seeing a higher prevalence rate of students that need services. What we're also seeing now is obviously during COVID, that has escalated the problem, but then also the providers are charging more. So it's not that we necessarily have many more students. We do have a bit more students than we've had in the past, but the cost per student has also gone up because there's a lot of competition within the providers, and it's also challenging finding staff.
And there's also been adjustments in how the state has funded some of the special education.
Laws on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
So.
We don't hear you and the
Oh,
public
I'm
didn't
sorry.
either.
I'll come up and just say it.
Please come, Mr. Pennington.
Excellent.
Slowly up here.
No, I just wanted to add that we've also seen new legislation providing education till end of their 22nd year. And then also the new legislation on the front end where kindergarten start age. So both of those have increased costs.
I know it sounds like I'm beating a dead horse, but I know I probably asked similar questions before, but that's just because I just want to make sure the public, whoever's tuned in, because they might not know that. So it's important.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And the reimbursement rates also changed. But I'm not gonna ask you to come down to talk.
Yes. Thank you. Next item is committee representative reports. Any committee chairs like to add anything for this evening?
I'll share a quick library liaison report. Vicki Otis from the main branch said that they are visiting the six elementary schools to tell them about summer reading, and the other 6 elementary schools will be visited by staff from the Sono branch of the library. And she sent me the flyer that they have for summer reading and all the programming this summer, and it's pretty amazing. I mean, the weekly programs at the library, there's movie matinees on Mondays at 3 o'clock, Team Steam on Tuesdays at 4 o'clock, Adventures Around the World on Wednesdays at 4, the usual Lego Club on Thursdays at 4, Friendship Fridays and paint-alongs, and some things on over the weekends too. So the library is going to have a lot of programming for the kids this summer, in addition to the summer reading program that starts June 15th.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really, really awesome.
Anyone else?
We had a specialized learning meeting. It's pretty hard for me to get into the information because it was such an informational session that we had. We talked about early childhood services and birth to 3 transition. We spent a lot of time on that, talking about the program and learning what happens and recommendations to coming into the program. And we also talked about the school year and Summer Academy going to grade 5 from 3, and that they'll be running concurrently. And we also learned that extended school year, it's one of those things it's not a mandate to the parents, it's, it's a suggestion, and it's trying to keep a prevention of loss of skills for everybody, just like everybody. So I think it's a really important program that we have. Did you have anything else?
I would agree, it was very, very informational, and I'm sure the recording is out there for anyone who has questions about it.
I would say definitely.
Very information-rich meeting.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good reminder for the public is all of our committee meetings are recorded and they should be listened to because there's a lot of information that's covered that is not necessarily always covered at our board meetings, but they are very detailed So you do see the robust information.
I have a report on liaison to the CES. One of the many things they offer the region is, and I have mentioned this to some of the construction people, but they have been vetting, they vet, of course, their construction workers and architects and all of that, and because of their close relationship with the state, they get a 5% discount. And they're willing to, they're offering to anyone, any districts like ourselves, that if you use the people they vetted, they will pass on the 5% discount. So I've shared that with some of our building people, and I think it's really interesting. Every year I learn more about how does this all work? How does the whole system work together? And CES is part of trying to make it better and share the funds more.
I just wanted to call out again the team that was able to secure the HVAC funding for the district, and Sandra. I wasn't able to join the press conference yesterday, but there's been some great press around it, and it's just a huge game changer, which I think Mary said earlier, for the district. So thank you to your team for securing that for us. It's really huge.
Can I add something in that perspective? So, one of the things that we have heard in terms of concerns from the project was about Tracy and Wolf Pit not being part of the cohort of schools receiving this. There's a factor that prevented us from including them in the application, which is that they didn't have enough power to sustain the system, and there is a significant amount of electrical work that needs to happen from the outside in to be able to have central air. So for that reason, those two schools could not participate in the grant application. We have received some concerns from some Tracy parents regarding the fact that their schools were not included. I just want to make sure they understand that it wasn't that the district didn't want to submit an application, it was that the application didn't allow us to do so because of the electrical concern. We are looking at the NPS air conditioning funds program to hire an electrician and a mechanical engineer to survey the requirements for air conditioning for the Tracy building. We're gonna focus on Tracy at this time because Wolf Pit requires additional abatement that makes it cost inhibiting at this point. We will work with Eversource to talk about what the needs are in terms of the electrical power that needs to be brought in from the outside in. And we will be working with the city and going through the bidding process to see if we can install window units at Tracy for the time being, as well as figure out how to address some of the electrical challenges that the facility has.
Maybe I should add too. Since our last meeting, the ad hoc educational justice inclusion meeting, we got together, the committee. So Ms. Allison Reedy Johnson is now leading that committee in place of Dr. McBride, who used to lead that committee. So our last meeting, we really just kind of did a review and just kind of examined what we had done thus far. So the next meeting, we will really start to get into some deeper examination of what we're gonna do next. So I just wanted to mention that. And the Finance Committee did meet as well, and what you heard tonight from Linda Asmani is pretty much what we reviewed in our last Finance Committee meeting, but just wanted to note that we did have that meeting. We heard some of the same items from the parents tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Next item is board member announcements. This is where us as board members, we get to talk a little bit about ourselves or any event that we are a part of. So that our colleagues can learn more about us and our public can learn more about us. Anybody want to share anything? Okay.
Yeah.
Dr.
Go right ahead.
Sreya, go ahead.
So I'm the proud mother of two PTech NCC graduates. They graduated with their associate's degree before they got their high school degree. It's quite fascinating. Really proud of them and the rest of the PTech students that acquired their associate's degree a few days ago. It was a great experience to be on stage with my babies. I can actually my diploma. I joke with them, I don't know who earned it more, them or me. But kudos to the PTech team and everyone who helped make that possible. And for all the kids that graduated, it was a beautiful moment with very frizzy hair.
No, but that program is amazing, and to think that they're so young and to graduate with an associate's degree. And it's not an easy program because they go to school through the whole year, so it's constant studying. They give up their summers, and we as parents also give up our vacations with them because they are at school or they are doing their internships. So by the time they get to go away to college, they are actually so prepared that my son, when he did it 3 years ago, didn't get homesick and didn't have the issue of how do I study or anything like that, because he was so far advanced with that. And not to mention, it was a great opportunity because of his credits that transferred, that I, as a single mom, didn't have to pay for the extra classes. So it's a great opportunity, and I would hope that more families look into programs like that and look at CGS, because it's just fascinating opportunities right here in Norwalk.
Right here in Norwalk.
And we had our first ever convocation speaker that was a PTech student this year, and he was phenomenal. And we also had two students that had a perfect 4.0 average, and they were our babies. So it was quite impressive. We had two students that acquired the academic award, which was really impressive.
And that's competing with 18, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds.
Yes. It was beautiful.
So I have a very small thing to share. I took my granddaughter to first grade, and she's 4.5. It was so much fun to be with her, going through, picking out books she recognized, and then she wanted a butterfly on this cheek and on that cheek. And that's exactly what she told this wonderful teacher who was painting all the kids. So she was just lit up for the whole rest of the day. So that was very nice.
Yeah, and first of all, just to see the staff, the number of staff from Norwalk Public Schools. I mean, I was there all day. By the time I was done, I was on my sofa and I was not moving. But it was an amazing.
3,000 people come.
And we think it's
They
more
have them.
because there were some people coming from a different door, so we probably had more than 3,000. We counted over 3,000.
That's quite remarkable. Quite remarkable.
And Howard Court
Good job.
dancing.
On my note, Norwalk Mutual Aid, which I'm on the board of, we're gonna start our food drives again in the summer for the Norwalk Public Schools pantry. So keep an eye out for those dates, and I hope that, you guys can either, you can do a trunk collection at your house in your driveway, have your friends and family come and donate, and then you can just drop it at the family center. Or I'll be at the family center with other volunteers from Norwalk Mutual Aid to be collecting and stocking the pantry there. You know, people forget that just because COVID is over, doesn't mean that people still don't need food. There's a lot of families that still are in a lot of need. And I'm also, the Red Ribbon Gala for the Mid-Fairfield AIDS Project, that's June 22nd. So we are raising funds for that, and we work on helping those that have drug abuse issues that are also HIV positive or they're homeless. So all of that funding will go towards our program. So anybody?
I wanted to highlight something that was here in the community that I was just so touched by, and I wanted to make sure that Dr. Estrella was given proper recognition because it was her idea, the Just Say Yes to Dress.
Oh, yes.
Urban Prom Dress event, which was so well responded to. I understand that over 250 dresses were donated. Other things like shoes and accessories and jewelry as well. And I'm assuming we all saw some of the, news coverage on it. It was just so touching to see that, and I just wanted to thank you for that. I know it was inspired by you. I understand a little over 100 dresses were picked and taken home, and just the selection process was really, fun and moving. We also were able to give away prom tickets. The prom tickets are pricey, $120 a piece. So some of the students who came in were able to also get a prom ticket or instead of a dress, a ticket. So I think this is the beginning of something.
And I'm already thinking about the next thing. So one of the things that we really want to do is get tuxedos. It's really hard to get tux for boys, or girls, whoever wants tuxedos. And that's our next big push for next year, getting tux for students that want and need that. But that has been more challenging to attain. So spread the word, tuxedos.
Right, but I also understand that students, the Norwalk Height and the Bryan McMahon proms are both on Friday night. But any student who is still looking for a dress, they can go tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday, but it's still open at the Family Center. Anybody who needs anything, dress, wise, shoes, or they can still go in.
And besides the tux, the other big thing is makeup and hair. Those are two things that I'm gonna try to see if we can collectively work to sponsor. But I have to shout out Frances Eyes and the team, because she was phenomenal. She took a vision and made it reality. And the way that the girls spoke about how they felt, they felt so special. They made it it was like they were in a store shopping for their gowns. It was beautiful.
And for those of you that didn't go there to see it, as Alice is explaining, and even it had, I think Sandra was one of the was it called counselors? Dress consultant. So each girl had a dress consultant bringing the clothes, and this looks right, and a little platform to stand up and twirl on. It was so cool, really, really a great idea, and the donations were spectacular. Just
we got a lot of dresses with tickets unworn. It's beautiful.
So that was a great idea, Alice.
Yes.
That's great, and
It will be.
a lot of enthusiasm.
You hear me it will be.
A lot of enthusiasm.
So we'll be busy, we'll have Howard helping console the guys.
I know that.
You guys are tuxedo consultants for next year.
He's always so nicely dressed, so it'll good. All right, so with that being said, thank you for the team and everybody for all the hard work and everything that you're doing. Thank you to my colleagues. And now I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Ooh, okay, motion, thank you.